Good to be back with you, Lynda, under very difficult circumstances, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a turn of events for the worst for Ukraine. We just heard the President Zelensky a short time ago in his nightly address say that the situation on the front lines is extremely difficult. And he added that Russia was taking advantage of shortages of aid from the West. What's your assessment?
It's absolutely true. Putin does see what's happening right now. He has a very strong vision of what is occurring with the support from the West, and he's taking advantage of it. It has emboldened Mr. Putin, not only in his international affairs, but also in his domestic affairs in terms of the killing in Navalny. All of these things are tied together to an individual who is leading Russia down a very terrible path. Unfortunately, in this case, Ukraine is the object of their passion right now. And because of manpower shortages, resource shortages, support from the West, I think there are going to be continued dire circumstances in Ukraine for a force that has been fighting exceedingly well above their weight class for the last 2 years.
And I want to play some sound from President Zelensky. He spoke to our Christian Amanpour over the weekend, speaking about the dire consequences should Russia take Ukraine and what comes next. Let's just listen.
If Ukraine will be alone, you have to understand what will be. Russia will destroy us, destroy Baltic, destroy Poland, and they can do it.
And General, he went on to speak about the psychology and how nations and allies in that region psychologically are not ready for an invasion, the one that Ukraine has been enduring. Because Ukraine, of course, well before Russia invaded, was dealing with Russian aggression for years, well before the annexation of Crimea. What do you make of his point?
They're very good points, Lynda. As you said in your very kind introduction of me to the show, I served for 37 years. 12 of those years were in Europe. I got a feel for the expansionism of the Russian Republic, especially, or the Russian Federation rather, especially since Mr. Putin has been in charge. I think President Zelensky is right on target, and unfortunately, some of the American politicians don't understand that, what he might try and do next. He's already shown what he can do in places like Georgia and Moldova, in some of the Baltic states. So the European nations, for the most part, especially the ones that used to be under Russia's thumb as part of the Soviet Union, understand his psyche. They know what he wants to do to reestablish the old Soviet Union. That's what he's attempting to do. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't quite understand that. They're somewhat immature in their approach of understanding what Mr. Putin is looking for. We should have received a wake-up call for what's been happening over the last 2 years in Ukraine, but unfortunately, some people who are claiming war fatigue, who have not experienced the war, they're outside the limits of the war, are unfortunately going to learn a very, very valuable lesson. And that's why I think the U.S. Congress should act, and should act very quickly in supplying the amount of resources and the aid that they have planned to give.
And just looking at the issues with weaponry and ammunition, I mean, of course, when the US failed to pass this bill, Europe stepped in with more aid. But I want to ask and understand about the gaps in NATO. Where are the gaps when it comes to weapon systems and maintenance and ammunition?
Well, a lot of those NATO countries buy equipment from the United States through the defense industries in the United States. So some of the material resources are coming from the US. Others have not, the ones who have not lived up to their 2% goal of the GDP have made decisions not to financially support the kinds of stockage and stockpiles that they need to sustain a very long war. We are learning lessons from this conflict in Ukraine. We are learning that it is intensive, that it doesn't just stop in a short war scenario. I think we were misled by some of the actions in Desert Storm in 1990, thinking that all future conventional fights were going to be quick and precise. And that's not what the history of war teaches us. Sometimes wars last a very long time using imprecise weapons, and we have to continue with a strong will to counter all those things.
Yeah, you're exactly right. General Mark Hertling, we'll leave it there for now. Good to have you with us as always.
Great to be with you.